The reason they put up an ad every 6 months was so that they could bring someone in to see it, murder them, eat them, and when their flesh was done, then you just put up the ad again and go get another person and to put them in the refrigerator. So over the past few weeks, people consistently have been sending me this listing for the sale of a Tyrrell P34 Formula One car, the six-wheeler that I've talked about before. My fascination with six-wheelers. And they're like, are you gonna buy this? And I've been getting it daily from different people on Instagram and Facebook and my email. Like, have you seen this? I'm like, yes, I've seen it. I'm like, I don't have those kind of pockets to go buy a Formula One car, but it has been driven hard. And the last time this happened, I ended up buying the car that got drove at me. And what that car was a legend on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist previous to that was the Rocky Aoki 911 Targa limousine. Now, if you're not familiar with this, you've probably been living under a rock on the internet because this thing popped up once every 6 months for the past 5-6 years. I mean, it's been around forever. And it's a strange beast. It is a 1973 Porsche 911e Targa that somebody cut and stretched into a limousine with twin Targas and then put a 959 body kit on that the guy who invented Benihana and was a famous offshore boat racer and balloonist and all those, Rocky Aoki, he had this car made and raced in the One Lap of America in 1991. And it's been derelict since then. Its interior is pretty much gutted out. It's in primer, was left at a body shop. But every time that thing would pop up on the internet, just like the Tyrrell, people were like, you got to get this. This is the craziest Porsche, because they know I'm into 959s. They know I'm into Porsches. They know I'm into unusual cars. I mean, really, all it's missing is another 2 wheels, and that would be it. I was on the last Cannonball that I did, which was the US Express, which I did with Ed Bolian and Trevin from Sway. And we were in the Rolls Royce and we're running across the country. And, you know, you're in the car for hours and you hit the funny point. There's a point in the drive, and usually about 24 hours in, where you've all driven, slept and driven, and you're kind of getting a little crazy and things are funny and ideas are flowing. Ed was driving and I was in the passenger seat and Trevin's in the back asleep. And we start talking about like what I should do over the next year with cars and my YouTube channel and things like that. And Ed goes into this fugue state and starts designing me a future. And he's like, well, we got to find you your car, like a car that represents you. And we're like, well, there's the Audi Quattro Cannonball car. And I go, well, most people associate that with Ed. They think the car, which is not the same car that I have, is Ed's car. Like I was at Laguna Seca and they're like, Ed Bolian's here. I'm like, no, that's my car. So we needed like a car that was me. And at some point I was like, you know, there's the Rocky Aoki limousine that keeps popping up. And I contacted the guy, I don't know, 8 months earlier. I was like, you know what? He wanted, I think, 20,000 for it or 18,000. Every time it came out, it started at like 35 and kept lowering and lowering and lowering. And I think it was down to 18. And I sent him an offer of 10, just I could get it and play with it. And he's like, oh, no, not going to happen. I'm like, fine. I was like, you know what? What if we're going to LA? The car's in LA. What if we just reach out to him and be like, hey, I could go look at it. It would just, you know, just for fun. It's like, hey, let's go just look at puppies. You know, we're not going to get one. We're just going to go look at puppies because it'll be a fun thing to do. Because we've all done that. Let's just go look at a car. I don't really want to buy it. But out of curiosity, I sent him a messenger and he writes back. He's like, oh, yeah, the owner would love to meet with you. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's step one. Then we finished the run in the Rolls, which, of course, was amazing. And we get into LA and we finish this Sunday morning. And the awards are going to be that afternoon. And we're all exhausted and tired. And he's like, well, I can meet you at like 5 or 6. And I wanted to see it in the daylight, but that wasn't going to happen because the awards ceremony was going to happen at 4. We had to get across town. So we ended up seeing it at 6 o'clock. We're driving across LA to go see this. We're all in the Rolls And now Emma's with us, so there's the four of us. And we're kind of like debating what the story is behind a car. Like, how does a guy end up with this thing? And one of the theories was that he was like a contractor who perhaps, had taken in a trade for some work at a house. And there was one more where he was like, a serial killer or something like that. And my idea was that he was an artist who had seen the potential for the car or some nonsense. Turns out I was right. We pull into this neighborhood in LA at 6 o'clock. It's dark because it's October. It's 2 days before Halloween. Just to set the scene. 2 days before Halloween, we're exhausted. We've been on the road for 2 days in a Rolls Royce. And we'd just driven in. We haven't had any sleep that morning. And we're going to go look at the world's craziest car. We park the Rolls in this kind of kooky neighborhood, walk down the street, and it's just cute cottage. And then a house with a fence in front of it and a glowing green orb of a light, and then a gate, from a monastery out front that was constructed so you can't see the house. And it's like pulling up to the Addams Family, like, something's different about this house in the neighborhood. I'm like, okay, we're here. And the gate opens, and I fully expected to see like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror Picture Show stick his head out, or, because it was just like, hello, welcome, come see my car. And the owner opens the door, and nice man, Baron Margot, who is actually a pretty prominent artist in LA. He's a sculptural artist, and he's in his early 80s, I think, and his daughter was there, and they bring us in. And there is crazy art from this. The reason he has these gates is that to hide the driveway, which is filled with stuff. Like, there's like a sand rail made out of like a 59 Cadillac or something. And there's like a stack, literally like just pile on top of each other, of old 60s Honda motorcycles. And there's sculpture, and there's like frogs with big antenna sticking out of a pond. Like, our brains are already scrambled, and we're like, whoa, we walk into this place, and there underneath like a lean-to built off of his house is the car. And it's rough. There's no engine in it. The engine got stolen by a guy who was going to rebuild it. But it's kind of magnificent. You're kind of like, I see the potential in this. It takes somebody of my mindset, which may be insane, to look at something like that and go, I see potential in a twin Targa wreck of a limousine dressed as a 959. I see something here. Ed's looking at it, looking at the paperwork, and Trevin and Emma, who are from Montana, have never seen anything like this in their lives. And they're just like, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, Ed turns to me and he goes, this is where we die. Like, he's fully convinced that the reason they put up an ad every 6 months was so that they could bring someone in to see it, murder them, eat them, and when their flesh was done, then you just put up the ad again and go get another person and put them in the refrigerator. Like, it was cuckoo pants. I'm not saying Baron was a very nice man. I don't think he eats people. But he took us inside, and we got to see his whole place. Every square inch of this place covered in his art. Like, literally stripped the drywall off the wall. So it's just like wood and lath and art and sculptures and crazy ladies with glowing heads and chimpanzees riding half of bicycles and just madness. When you're that exhausted, all of it appears even stranger. It didn't seem like we were really there. Like, we were all hallucinating the same thing at once. He takes us through. We actually go out the back, and they take us into another section, another garage he had built out back, filled with more stuff. There is a bear in a belly tank, that they had for fighter planes, standing vertically like a rocket ship, and he's got a little Soviet thing on and the little controls, like he's the captain of this 50s rocket ship. A lot of his stuff is very 50s sci-fi based. And there's a whole section where he'd done things that were like part animal skeletons and the heads of other things. It got weird. You imagine that we were a little off our game in the negotiation part of this. So I was like, you know what? Ed agreed, and Trevin was into it, and we're like, let's just see if we can make a deal. Like, just get this thing, and I can drag it up to my house in Northern California, and we can take a look at it. One of the interests we had in it was that it was because it was Rocky Aoki's car. His son is the famous Steve Aoki, the DJ. And we're like, maybe he'd be interested in it. Like, maybe I could get the car and we can get some sponsors for it, and we could do something and we can cannonball it. We can get Steve Aoki in the back, mixing some stuff up, or who knows? It just seemed like there was a lot of potential for fun with this car. Rocky Aoki's other famous progeny is Devon Aoki from Fast and the Furious. She drove the pink Honda S2000, right? So if we could get Steve Aoki and her in with the car, I mean, how cool would that be? Guaranteed, if I ever pulled into any show with that car, they would know it would be me. So if I pull in, and the great thing is it's good for Rennsport because it's a Porsche. I can take it to Rennsport. Luft, they might even take it. I could take it to the Concours de Lemons. I could take it to whatever show. They're going to let me in that thing because it's going to be awesome. So I'm like, let's make the deal. Ed is the shrewdest of negotiators. Even he was off his game. Even this place, this situation, they went back and forth. We're like, this car is really not worth that much to anybody but somebody like us who would actually know how to bring it back to life. And Barron's all like, if you had to buy two 911s, that's like $40,000 each. And if you put them together, he goes, that's a $100,000 car. I'm like, no, it's not a $100,000 car. And Ed worked hard. And I love watching him make the deal, right? And even he was just like, no, not going to happen. Like, retreat, we're done. Let's just walk away and come back to this another day. Couldn't make it happen. And that was fine because I'm like, sometimes you need some resistance to buying a car to really understand if you want it. Not the best time to make a choice like that when you're exhausted coming off a cannonball with a car like that. So we're like, okay, thank you for showing it to us. They were really pleasant and nice. And we left. Part of my brain was like, let's just let it go and maybe he'll drop down in price. And because we threw a number at him and we're like, maybe we did this number and a piece of your art and, we can promote some of your art or something like that. And he was like, no, absolutely not. So we sat on it for a couple of months and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? This could be next year's project. This could be 2024's thing. Let's just go for it. So I called them up again and we met right in the middle at their price. We truly negotiated exactly what they wanted. And it wasn't 18 grand, but we met at a fair number. And I did get a piece of art. I actually got two pieces of art. I got a lady with a flaming head and I got one of their ray guns. And maybe one of those will appear in the back here soon enough. Drove back to LA to go get it. Loaded up the Cannonball ambulance, put the trailer on the back, drove down from NorCal. And amazingly, the return to it during the day, well rested, it wasn't as crazy as I thought the first time. And they were fantastic. They had pulled it out. They had it ready, sitting there amongst his other cars. He builds a lot of cool custom cars. And if you get a chance to check out his website, there's cool stuff on there. They're made out of belly tanks and polished, and they've got rockets on the back, all kinds of cool things. And there's a few of them around the car. We pulled up, and I think the guy in the corner kind of summed up the whole thing. We pull in, we loaded it up, and as we pulled out, he just looked at us, looked at the car, and flipped us off. And we're like, yeah, we just did the right thing. Yeah, we got the reaction we want. And driving home was wonderful because there is nothing like towing a twin Targa 959 monstrosity with a 50-year-old Cannonball ambulance to create some action on the freeway. People were literally just slamming on their brakes, couldn't get their idea which to take a picture of. To take a picture of the car or what's towing it or both. We pulled in for gas. We had a couple of really great people, VINwiki fans, and you're probably watching right now. Thank you. You stopped up and chatted with us, and they're like, all of them agreed it was the best, worst purchase ever.
I'm super pumped to announce that in 2024, VINwiki is partnering with Bridgestone. So throughout the year, you're going to hear some great stories from their business, some awesome tire testing and things like that we're going to do. I've had a lot of Bridgestone and Firestone products over the years and loved them all. I know that you will too, but I want you to check out their Potenza line of tires for sports cars, supercars, and hypercars. Whatever your needs, whether it's ultimate track performance, road performance, or all-season performance, there is a Potenza tire for you. So check them out at the link in the description below and let us know what you think.